This person has been on many tenure committees, so that's like many people, but this includes 6 outside of her own department and chairing at least 1 within. She was 15 years the lead staff diversity facilitator for district committees for human resources, and also did an accreditation visit as an assistant to Dr. Eva Conrad in 2005. This person has been an AFT contract negotiator. Her campus service has been geared directly towards students, I would say for sure. She has helped significantly with Multicultural Day. She has also been an advisor for a number of student projects, including the Graphics Multimedia Mental Illness Project and the Multicultural Club Multicultural Club faculty advisor for the Vibrant Spectrum Club, formerly the Gay Straight Alliance. The person who wrote the letter to recommend this person to nominate said, "I'm convinced that the reason why the Spectrum Club continues to thrive while others languish is because of this person's continuous encouragement, dedication, and active involvement. Her support of the LGBTQ community goes beyond her involvement with the Spectrum Club. In fact, she played a larger role in the establishment of gender-neutral bathrooms at Moorpark College. She was also one of the founding members of the Safe Zone training at Moorpark College." Now, in terms of instruction, someone else recommended her and said that, let me get to this other spot, here we go. Okay, that she has, that her classes are known as challenging and demanding, yet students describe her as helpful and encouraging. In the classroom, she uses innovative activities to help students engage with the material and learning critical thinking and communication skills. And I can vouch for that as a colleague. I have seen classes take part outside with chalk, various types of activities that I really enjoy seeing that make the day much brighter. Let's see, her example and effort has had a tremendous impact on others teaching as well. She's always available and eager to discuss teaching methods and problems with colleagues. Furthermore, she's genuinely open to students' informed opinions and eager to grow and learn along with her students. And I'd like to close with something that a student has said about her, because she really is the embodiment of students first, in my opinion. She said, "Sally challenges you." You already know. Sally challenges you and makes you think in ways of which you never thought. She is an awesome human being and stands tall among the women who have influenced my life. This award goes to Sally Ponce O'Rourke.
Thank you. Thank you. I am honored to receive this Distinguished Faculty Chair Award. I want to thank those who wrote these glowing letters of support, and I want to frame them and put them on my wall and show them to everybody. Would be wonderful, and I am going to cherish them. Also, thank you to the Distinguished Faculty Chair Committee. I know you have a very difficult job. I know that there are many faculty who are as equally deserving of this award, if not more. So thank you for supporting my nomination. And I want to thank the entire campus community. We are successful in serving our students because we do have a Moorpark College culture, and that culture is to help each other. So thank you for 23 years of supporting me. Thank you very much. I was so glad to see President Sanchez with notes. It makes me feel so good, thank you. And I'm really excited not to have followed the presenter before me. Yeah. All right. Almost 9 years ago, a group of students approached me and asked me if I would be the advisor to a new club on campus that they wanted to start, the Gay Straight Alliance, or GSA. But what they didn't know was that there previously had been a GSA. Raquel Olivera, are you here today? Okay. She was the advisor. But the campus climate at that time, and in fact the climate in our country, was such that none of the students felt safe. They held meetings in secret. They moved from location to location because they feared for themselves. They had no way of letting other students know that there was an LGBT family for them, and they folded. 9 years ago, when we reestablished the club, I still think that people didn't quite get who we were. So here's a little story. This is for you, Cynthia. Here's the story. Okay. Raquel and I were going to take the students on their very first LGBT conference to UC Santa Cruz. Now, I had never personally been responsible for taking a group of students anywhere, certainly not over the weekend, and I really didn't know what to do. There was paperwork. You're going to hate the paperwork. There's paperwork. There's room assignments, there's transportation, and I was overwhelmed. So I went to talk to one of the deans, right? And I said, we're the new club on campus. We're the Gay Straight Alliance. And I said, I don't know what to do with room assignments. And here's basically what she said. Well, college students will be college students. And so we want to minimize the possibility that there's going to be any sexual activity between them. Here it comes. So you should put all the men in one room. They didn't get it. Okay. Yep. All right. Thank you for laughing. Okay. We have come a long way since then. Right? Raquel and I are still the co-advisors. The club is now called Spectrum, and Danny Vieira has just joined us this past year as an advisor as well. Go, Danny. All right. These years have been illuminating. Just like all of our students, they share with us their goals and their dreams, their personal lives and their struggles, but they also educated me about their communities. As a cisgender heterosexual person, I cannot stand here and pretend to know the LGBT experience. I can't speak for them. However, I would like to introduce you to Rebecca Norwood. She is president of Spectrum. Come on, Rebecca. Becca Boo. Becca Boo.
Thank you, Sally.
You can do it, Becca.
Hello, everyone. Lots of familiar faces. Been here for years. How you doing? Wow, I don't know how you teachers do this. Congratulations, you guys. Impressive. This is terrifying.
You can do it. No Title IX problems here. Okay.
So as she said, my name is Rebecca Norwood. I am the current president for all of you. I am the current president of Moorpark College Spectrum, and I am so honored to be so. Our job on campus is to provide a safe, friendly, and educational environment for LGBTQ+ students, faculty, and staff alike. Thank you, sorry. Not only do we give space for these individuals to express themselves, we also educate them about LGBTQ+ matters and things that are affectionate today. Our doors are always open to allies that are seeking to better themselves and become strong and advocate for the community. And we understand that that can be really scary and hard. It's new things for people. But we are here to help support and improve and everything we can to make this a safe place for LGBTQ+ members on campus, for faculty, staff, and students. And we are offering our services to your classrooms to come and talk and show what it is to be a good ally and help understand where we're coming from. And we want to inspire, we want to create, we want to make this a home. I have found my family with Spectrum. I have found the people that have made college the best thing in the world. And I was a high school dropout. This has been an incredible experience, and I love that students come to me and they find a place with us. And thank you to Sally. She has been mom. We call her mom because she has been the parent that a lot of students might not have, or faculty that don't have the support they need either, or staff, anybody. She has become an incredible human. So with all of our help and everyone else, that we can make Moorpark College safe and fun for all LGBTQ plus members, faculty, staff, and students alike. Thank you.
That was good. No. You did terrific. It seems I forgot something. I'd like to introduce my family. Oops. Someone was supposed to throw something at me. Up in the back, my mother, Elsa O'Rourke, came in from Texas. Hi, Mom. Okay. My daughter, Sarah Yowling Root. Yay! My husband, Terry Root. He has supported me and put up with me. Oh, yeah, no. For almost 35 years. And finally, I'd like to introduce my monozygotic twin separated at birth, Donna Sanchi. Okay, good deal. I often get a question, which is, how many LGBT people are there in the United States? Okay. A conservative number is about 4% of the US population, of which 0.6 identify as transgender. And the reason I say conservative is because the US Census has never asked about sexual orientation nor gender other than male or female. And unfortunately, we learned this summer that we will not be included in the 2020 either. Since there is no single organization that collects the same data on our LGBT communities, my information for today's talk is going to come from various organizations. One of them is the LGBT Task Force, another is the American Psychological Association, gotta do it, I'm a psychologist, and most importantly, the 2015 US Transgender Survey. In choosing my topic today, I knew it was going to be LGBT. I knew that right off the bat. How could it not be, right? But which community? Each one is so diverse. They have their own history and their own struggles. But I decided on transgender community. And I did so because I think this community has the most misconceptions about it. People just don't understand what it is and who they are. And so I decided this is a perfect platform to dispel some of those misconceptions. I've heard quite recently, and read on the media, that isn't this transgender thing just a fad? I don't know if anybody else has heard it, but yes. No, it's not. Okay, but yes, it is out there in the media. It's not a fad. And they say things like, well, I really never heard the word transgender until like 2 or 3 years ago, and all of a sudden, everybody is coming out as transgender. Well, no, it's not a fad, and no, everybody isn't coming out as transgender. Part of it has to do, I think, with some people, or they think it is, because of the what? The transgender celebrities that we see all over the place. But the reality is that transgender people have been a part of society for thousands and thousands of years. To start with, and I know some of you are going to groan, I'd like to actually cover a few terms or concepts. I think they're important to have a sort of lay the groundwork for the rest of the presentation. And the caveat is that each of these terms or concepts could fill an entire lecture, if not an entire course. So what I'm going to give you is a Trans 101 mini lecture. All right? The first concept, biological sex. Right? You've all heard it. Congratulations, it's a boy. Oh, congratulations, it's a girl. And then in 5 seconds or less, a sex is assigned at birth based solely on a doctor looking at the baby's genitalia. That's it. XX equals what? Female. XY equals male. However, we know that biological sex is not a binary. It's a spectrum. And there are other chromosomal and anatomical variations besides those. For example, a baby may be born with ambiguous genitalia, and they would be identified as intersex, or an outdated, misleading term that you may be more familiar with is hermaphrodite. All right. And biological sex is also sometimes conflated with gender or gender identity. When we talk about gender or gender identity, we're talking about this innermost concept of self as a male or a female, a blend of both, the two spirits that I previously mentioned, and other options as well. We all have a gender identity, and we all express our gender, typically, at least in part, based upon social and cultural norms. So let's try this. Some of you today, I'm over here for a reason, some of you today are wearing ties. Right? Yeah. I expect that I can accurately, they're heard, right? I expect that I can accurately predict 2 things about you. One, you're either the president of the college, an administrator, a manager, or Rex Edwards. I was so afraid you weren't going to wear a tie today. For those who don't know Rex, he always wears a tie. Right. Here's the second thing, and this one may be going out a little bit on the limb, but I'm going to go there. If I were to ask each of you, what your gender identity is, those of you wearing a tie would say male. Oh, she's saying no? Oh. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. So those of you who say male and are wearing a tie actually have a gender identity that matches their sex assigned at birth. So their gender identity is male and it matches. But that doesn't work for everybody. Right? Transgender people have a sex assigned at birth that is different from their gender identity. So when we talk about transgender, sometimes it's used as an umbrella term. Right? It can encompass cross-dressers, drag kings, drag queens, the 2 spirits that I mentioned, gender fluid, gender nonconforming, and we could continue to go on. It's that plus part of the LGBT. Right? However, we know that languages are constantly changing and evolving, right? And really no more so than in the LGBT community. Yeah. It seems that the younger generation of LGBT people, the 18 to 24-year-olds, they seem to prefer to make a distinction between transgender and all those other gender identities. And so for today, I will make that distinction as well. Also, there are lots of identity terms that a trans person can use. They may say, I'm transgender, I'm transmasculine, I'm transfeminine, I'm trans man, I'm trans woman, I'm a man, I'm a woman. But those are just a few of the gender identity terms that they have available to them to describe who they are. In the 2015 Transgender Survey, it was the largest survey to date of transgender people in the United States. We had 28,000 respondents. One of the questions on the survey was, check off, they had 25 gender terms, check off all that apply to you. And then They said you can write in any that you feel reflects your gender identity. They wrote in 500 unique gender identity terms. I know some people sometimes think, why would you need all those terms, right? So to put a personal perspective on it, I would like to introduce you to Nick Shepard. Some of you will recognize Nick. Come on, Nick. And he is an integral part of our Safe Zone training team. Oh.
Hi, everybody. Have you ever had a word or a phrase on the tip of your tongue, and no matter how hard you try to describe it to somebody, they have no idea what you're talking about, and they cannot follow you? That's how I felt until I was probably about 15 years old. I knew that there was something different or wrong. I was really depressed. I was in high school. I felt really isolated, and I had such trouble describing how I was feeling to people. And I distinctly remember when that changed. I was standing in the counseling office of my high school, and there was a corkboard, and on the corkboard was pinned a piece of paper, and it said the word transgender, and underneath had the description of what it meant to be transgender. And as I was reading it, I felt like a light bulb went off in my brain, and I was mad, and I said, why didn't anybody tell me sooner? Because it would have, it just made so much sense to me, and obviously it described how I was feeling for so long. A lot of people ask me, like Sally said, why are there so many labels and so many words, and why do we need all these words like cisgender and gender fluid and non-binary? And that, I think, comes from a good place. I think people see labels as oppressive and something to put people in boxes and just give them a flat identity. But I personally see labels as liberation. It can be essential to somebody's self-discovery. Like me, I had never heard the word transgender until I read it in that room, and it opened my mind and allowed me to put words to an experience that I could not describe before. And for many people, it can be a sign that they're not alone, that other people feel this way, and that their feelings are valid. New words, the language evolves every day. New words are going to arrive, and some of them may seem ridiculous or nonsensical, but to the person who identifies with those labels, it can feel the same as I did. A liberation of not understanding what you were going through and being able to suddenly describe how you feel and who you are to somebody and say, here I am, And that language may not exist yet. Like I said, new words come up every day. The word gay didn't actually mean what it means today until the 20th century, although, funny enough, the term lesbian actually is from the 17th century. But beyond self-discovery, labels are also a gateway to community and a gateway to unifying people. You can identify as a label, find people who identify as those labels, and suddenly you have something in common and someone to talk to who understands you and who doesn't judge you. When I first arrived at Moorpark College, all of my close friends came from Spectrum Club. At the time, it was the Gay Straight Alliance back in 2009, And that's because people, especially people who aren't supported at home and who may have not had any opportunity to express themselves as their authentic self and be who they are, suddenly have a place where other people relate to them and understand them without judgment, and they can stand there and say, this is who I am, this is how I identify, and I exist. And I think that's it, but thank you. And I also want to say real quick, I just want to thank Sally, because I've known Sally for probably about 8 years. You've been my friend and my mentor, and I love you, and you've opened your office and your life and your heart to so many students who had nowhere else to go. So you deserve this award. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. When you hear the word transgender, some of you also probably hear transition. And transition or transitioning is simply a process. It's a process by which a person can affirm their gender identity. They are transitioning to their true or authentic self. But transitioning can be very complex. It may involve many steps for some people, fewer for others, and then some people may not transition. You've probably heard of at least one or two, but there really are three different kinds of transitioning. There's a social, a legal, and a medical transitioning. When a trans person first comes out as trans, they will often socially transition by sharing their correct pronouns and their new name. But who they share this with depends upon several factors. They're going to choose a person that they can trust. They're going to choose a person who they hope will accept them and support them. And probably most importantly, they're going to choose someone that they feel safe with. That person may not necessarily be a parent or a sibling. It may be someone at work, a friend, someone at school. It could be you. In addition, as you can see here, social transitioning often includes changing one's clothing as well as one's hair to more accurately reflect their true gender. And at this point, they will often start to use the bathroom that is consistent with their gender identity. For some trans people, they will stop there. Their transition for them is complete. There is no single right way to transition, so keep remembering that, right? Then one can choose to legally transition. They can hopefully change their name and their gender marker on their birth certificate, and then and I think you can see, yeah, there's our female up there. And subsequent documents, their driver's license, their passports, and so forth. There are, however, states today that under no circumstance will they allow you to change anything on your birth certificate. Also, different states and different governmental agencies each one has a different procedure. So trying to change even your name can really be quite time-consuming as well as expensive. So not everybody chooses to legally transition. The third type of transitioning, oh yeah, Lauren, yeah. The last type of transitioning is medical transitioning. And this typically starts with someone taking hormone replacement therapy. This is going to allow the person to develop secondary sexual characteristics that are going to more accurately reflect their gender. So for example, a trans woman, male to female, may develop breasts as a result of the estrogen that she's taking. A trans man will probably develop more body and facial hair as well. Then, a trans person may stop there. That may be sufficient. That is their authentic self. Others, however, may take the next medical step, which is gender confirmation surgery. You're probably more familiar with the term sexual reassignment surgery, and it's still used quite a bit in the media as well as in scientific journals, but gender confirmation surgery really more accurately reflects the process for that person. There are two types. You'll get it real quick. Top surgery and bottom surgery. Yeah. Top surgery for some will mean a mastectomy, like he's had, or breast augmentation. And while the estrogen will cause some breast enlargement, some transgender women, just like cisgender women, want larger breasts. So they may have a breast augmentation. And then, for some, they may stop there. They are their true or authentic self. Others may go on to have bottom surgery, which is simply, for this Trans 101, genital reconstruction. Again, to accurately reflect their gender or gender identity. Next, I'd like to show you a little video clip. I've chosen this one because I think it integrates the various concepts and hopefully will apply or provide a little bit of clarity. You're going to see Alex Drummond. She is a psychotherapist, a photographer, and an author.
I remember the first day out that I actually wore a skirt, out on the street, in public, as trans. I've been building up to this day for a long time. The journey from closet to a more integrated transgender identity is hard and can be terrifying at times, ultimately making that first step out of the door particularly so. I'm Alex, I live just above Cardiff. I am a trans woman and I live full-time as a trans woman, but I'm also widening the bandwidth of how to be a woman. So I've always made and fixed stuff, you know, from an earliest age. Kind of in my early years, it also was very much tied into a masculine identity, you know, having dirty hands, that's like masculine. And so kind of now, as a trans woman, if I'm fixing the car and I've got my boiler suit on, that doesn't take away my femininity. I can actually be a trans woman fixing a car. Women are allowed to fix cars too. I think it's kind of important to communicate the idea of transgender, illustrate the possibilities. I mean, I'd never even heard of transgender before the age of 40, and it was only when I was researching gender theory as part of my master's that I discovered all this like amazing science that finally made sense of something that I've been struggling with for years. And that's why I wrote the book, really, because I kind of wanted to bring all of that amazing knowledge to a wider readership so that people outside of academia could kind of read it and benefit from it too. The prospect of the thought of surgery terrifies me. You know, the idea that I'd have that to be accepted as a woman, I'd have to surrender my body to medical science to make it conform to, you know, it's sort of offensive, really. I mean, you know, to be obliged, that is. You know, people can opt for surgery, but to feel compelled to or required to, for me, that, you know, that just doesn't feel right. And to be honest, no amount of hormones is going to make me look like Claudia Schiffer. So you're curious about the beard hair. Well, it was kind of an accident. Back in my 30s, I kind of grew it in a bid to like man up and get rid of the whole girl thing. But it sort of works because it creates a very explicit transgender. People can read that I've got a male history, but they can also see I present as female. So it kind of deconstructs gender, it queers gender. You know, I spent years trying to pass as male, putting on a front, doing hyper-masculine things. But it was just a facade. You know, now, post-transition, I can live an authentic self. I have more friends, I still have a good job, and I can look in the mirror and I can actually like the person that I see, you know, and that's pretty cool.
All right. So you saw that Alex socially transitioned. Her hair, her makeup, her jewelry, her clothing, even how she sat was conventionally feminine. She did, however, decide to keep her beard, and I have no way of knowing. I researched it but couldn't find it. I don't know if she legally transitioned, and she was really quite clear that she had no intention of medically transitioning or surrendering her body to be a woman. All right. Okay. If Alex were to walk into your service area or your classroom on Monday, some of you would probably be a little taken back. Maybe some of you would be a little confused, the beard, and some of you maybe even a little uncomfortable. That's okay, initially, anyway. While it would not be appropriate to ask Alex if that was short for Alexandra, you could ask her what her pronouns are. And if you happen to misgender her, in other words, use masculine pronouns, apologize and move on. It's my best tip for you as an ally. Remember, however a person decides to transition is their transition and it is valid. So don't ask questions like, are you going to have the surgery? Or are those real? Those were not appropriate. You wouldn't ask them to a cisgender person. Please don't ask them to a transgender person either. All right. I previously said that some trans people don't transition. So, here we go. What might be some reasons, this is like a, you know, right. So what are some reasons that a transgender person might not transition, and my students can't answer that? Yeah. The cost, absolutely, cost. Different person, yep. Pressure from their environment, good. What else? Oh, discrimination, family, all of those are true and more. Trans women are 4.5 times more at risk of being murdered than a cisgender woman. Since January 1 of this year, 15 trans women, all women of color, have been murdered. Police investigations tell us that the majority were hate crimes, others in part, and some are still under investigation. The last trans woman was killed in July. Another reason you gave me for why you must have read your books before you showed up. Another reason why somebody may not transition is discrimination. And I'd like to introduce you to Jude Goodman. He is a Spectrum Club member. Come on, Jude.
Hi, my name is Jude Goodman. My preferred pronouns are they, them, theirs, but I'm okay with he, him, his as well, and my gender is transmasculine agender. I represent the 14% of trans people who were patted down by TSA officers of the wrong gender after informing them of my gender identity. The 3% of trans people who were refused care by a healthcare provider for a medical issue not related to gender transition, such as care for the flu. The more than half of trans people who stayed at a shelter in the past year and were verbally harassed, physically attacked, and/or sexually assaulted for being transgender. The 14% of trans people who engaged in sex work in exchange for food or a place to sleep. The 23% of trans people who were told to present as the wrong gender in order to keep their jobs. The more than 1/4 of trans people who were out to immediate family but were not allowed to wear clothing that matched their gender identity. The 7% of trans people who that were told that being transgender is a sin or that their religion will not accept them. And the more than 1/3 of trans people who were prohibited from taking their hormones while incarcerated. As a trans person, I have personally been denied jobs, proper medical care, and have been rejected by most of my family due to transphobia. Thank you.
The next reason really goes to the core of my heart. They all do, but this one in particular, because I'm a mom. And we all want and we all need unconditional love and acceptance. And unfortunately, many trans people don't get this. % of trans people who come out to their immediate family are physically assaulted. 9% are kicked out of the house, which means they're now living on the streets, but if they're lucky, they might be able to couch surf for a while. 14% are sent to a therapist or a religious advisor to stop them from being transgender. Some of you have probably heard of conversion therapy or reparative therapy or ex-gay therapy. There is no empirical research to support the claims that that works. None. Conversion therapy for minors is legal in 42 states. We should be incensed. And the last one, I think it was one of the nurses that got it, right? Of course, yeah. Financial. Some trans people go to therapy, maybe because they're experiencing gender dysphoria. Others are actually required to, in some instances, if they want to start hormone replacement therapy or have gender confirmation surgery. Others go to a counselor because they're trying to find ways to cope with with the stigma and discrimination that they face on a daily basis. I can't tell you what the cost is of that. Sometimes it's a sliding scale, maybe they go to CLU, sometimes it may be group therapy, but I am talking about people who do not have medical insurance. If you're taking hormone replacement therapy, it's about $1,500. Jude's gonna, $1,500. He gave me the stats. About $1,500 a year. And most transgender people will have to take their hormones for their entire lives. When we talk about gender confirmation surgery, wow. If we talk about top and bottom surgery, it depends upon the doctor you go to. It depends upon the procedures. It depends upon, are you going to have it done here in the United States, or are you going to go to another country? So I'm going to give you a broad range. Could be anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 or $60,000. The surgery, however, is a one-time cost. But how many of us could afford that? And we have insurance, right? Not all trans people have insurance. They're 3.5 times more likely to be unemployed, so they don't have insurance. The good news is that many insurance companies, and for now, Medicare and Medicaid, the emphasis was for now, many insurance companies are starting to cover gender-related surgeries and hormone replacement therapy. That's the good news. So why are they doing this? Because they've come to realize that the tremendous cost would be the psychological well-being of a trans person not being able to transition. And there's a last reason. I may not have given you an opportunity to come up with it. Well, let me give you a hint. I added this last reason in the last 2 weeks. If your dream had been to serve your country and potentially die for our freedom, then now's not the time to transition. Right? I know these statistics and this information is disheartening. And the issues are much more complex than I was able to present in this brief period of time. And like most complex issue, there is no single or quick solution. However, results from a 2016 survey found that supportive environments work. That sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? Supportive environments work. Unfortunately, a lot of trans people, don't have supportive environments. We know that if a trans person and a gender nonconforming, I'm going to put them together now, if they have a supportive family, friends, and a community, that we see significant decreases in the rates of anxiety and depression, homelessness and poverty, and attempts at suicide. The good news is, Moorpark College is one of those supportive communities. We provide a safe and welcoming learning environment for all of our students. We have a students first philosophy. We have resources and programs for our marginalized students that let them feel validated and valued. We have resource centers for foster youth, veterans, and our LGBT community. No, we don't. Okay, so for those who don't know, this is my office. Yeah, I know. But I am proud to say that my office is a de facto LGBT resource center for our students. Recently, we've instituted some changes that really does show our support as a college for our transgender and GNC students. And one of them, there it is. What's all the fuss about bathrooms? Yeah. Okay. In 2015, a year before California law required that all single-stall bathrooms be converted to gender neutral, we designated 4. Thank you, Sylvia. All right. We designated 4. Go, keep it. Yeah. I wished we lived in a time where we didn't have to have gender-neutral bathrooms, but that's not the reality. So we do have gender-neutral bathrooms. Why do we do this as a college for our students? The first reason is equity. That's pretty easy, right? It's also in our vision statement. The second reason, more importantly, is safety. And I'm talking about the safety of our transgender and gender nonconforming students. Let's be real clear about that. Here's the myth. Allowing transgender people to use the restroom that aligns with their gender identity would end up letting male sexual predators into women's bathrooms. You've heard that, right? Right. The push behind the bathroom bills. Spokespeople for the Transgender Law Center, the Human Rights Campaign, and the American Civil Liberties Union state, and I quote, "There has never been a verifiable reported instance of a trans person harassing a cisgender person in the bathroom, nor has there ever been any confirmed reports of male predators pretending to be transgender to gain access to women's spaces and commit crimes against them." 70% of transgender people who used a gender-segregated bathroom were verbally harassed. This one's sad. 32% limited the amount of food they ate and water they drank if they knew they were going to be out in public. 10% were physically assaulted. 9% were flat out barred from going into the bathroom. And 1% experienced a sexual assault. The safety is for our transgender and gender nonconforming students. Trans women want to pee in peace, just like the rest of us do, right? So it's nice to have the gender-neutral bathrooms. A third reason, and the final reason I'm going to give you, for why we need to have gender-neutral bathrooms is convenience. How many of you do not know where all 4 gender-neutral bathrooms are on this campus? Oh, I almost used a profanity. Oh, okay, well, here we go. 2 of them are in the music building. The other 2 are in the Student Services Annex building, new people, right? Which is at the other end of campus, to the left of the campus center, bookstore area. Got it, okay. Right. You should check it out. The bathrooms sort of face the parking lot area. Right. Yes? Where? It says gender neutral? We have a lock on it, single stall? We have 3 gender neutral, we have 5 gender neutral bathrooms. That makes me feel a lot better. Because when I researched that, I found out, not that we make comparisons, Oxnard College had 8. We have one where? Oh. Think about the message that it's sending the children. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Where's David Weinstein? Do the math. David Weinstein? You were listening? How many is that? Yes. Yes, we do. Nice. Can I tell Oxnard College that? No. No. No, I won't. I know. All right. So when I talk about convenience, so actually we do have more. Can I still do this? Sure, I'm going to do it. Okay. So when we talk about convenience, we've made an excellent start. We're up to 10. But I'm not so sure that it's convenient for a student to have to trek all the way up the hill with a full bladder and a 15-minute passing period between classes. I hope we can work together to come up with a solution that is equitable, safe, and convenient for our students. Yes. Another terrific change that Moore Park College made, and this one I believe was in the spring. This one I got really excited about. Okay. Think about the first day of class. What are our students nervous about? Are they going to find parking? They're on the wait list. Will the instructor add them because they have to have this class to be able to graduate? Please add them. Will they have enough money for textbooks? And will they have reliable or dependable daycare? Our transgender and gender nonconforming students are nervous about that. But before last spring, they also sat there, dreading when the instructor took roll and outed them with their birth name or what some trans people call a dead name. No more. Watch this. All right. So I knew we had it. I just didn't know how it worked. So a couple weeks ago, I went online and I registered as a student. And and here's what I found. They can now put in a preferred name, and this shows up on the roster. This is significant. This is huge, people. Yeah. But I didn't stop there. The next day I logged in, and above my VCCD, it said, Samuel Ponce O'Rourke. Yes. And my daughter said, Mom, why did you choose Samuel? And I said, I don't know. It's the first thing that came to my mind, and it sort of felt right. And okay, so I'm Samuel. And somebody actually sent me an email saying, hi, Sammy. When I sent emails out, it said Samuel. And poor Nina, where are you, Nina? Nina was trying to get a hold of me. And I guess all she could find was this Samuel person, right? And so she sent me this email as, Sally, who's Samuel? And I almost, but I didn't. I said, no, I'm still cisgender and heterosexual. My husband's happy to hear that. I am, however, I'm just testing out the system. But I didn't stop there. Oh, I said, okay, what other areas on campus is this going to be reflected on? So I went into Fountain Hall, and I went up to the little drop-by counseling and typed in my little 900 number, and it said, thank you, Samuel. Yeah. And then I sat down with the drop-by counselor, and on her screen, she saw Samuel. So she interacted with me because I was Samuel and as Samuel. And then I continued in the registration process, and here's the personal information. Now, this is optional, I understand, but look at this. We no longer are required to choose a male or female binary. We now have transgender and a drop-down, and we're now asking about sexual orientation as well. Our LGBT students are no longer invisible. We have validated them. And I hope that we can use this information to inform our decision-making as we go forward. And the last, yes. And the last significant change, because there's others, but the last significant change came about 2 years ago. Where are you, Sharon Manicus? Sharon got a group of us together, and now we have Safe Zone training. We have trained to date 111 faculty, staff, administrators, and you'll see this little emblem all around campus. That tells somebody that this person is committed and trained to support our LGBT students. We even have it now on the homepage, and in less than a year, we've had almost 2,700 visits. Every semester, we have at least one, sometimes two, Safe Zone trainings. You're going to see an email come out pretty soon. Okay? I hope that you will join us and become an ally here on our campus. Allies can make a difference. Allies can potentially save lives. I have already lost one Spectrum student to suicide. Please help me ensure that it doesn't happen again. So if you hear or see a transphobic or homophobic remark or behavior, please do something. Say something. I know sometimes that you're not comfortable with that. And I know sometimes you just don't know what to say. But if you come to our training, I guarantee you, you will leave knowing exactly what to say that will make a difference in at least one student's lives. And finally, I'd like to leave you with this two things. The first is a quote by Martin Luther King Jr.
On some positions, cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right? And there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he must take it because conscience tells him it is right.
And last, Moorpark College Spectrum students would like to give you something. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.